This podcast is part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, the network for first responders and those who support them.
All right, welcome back to Scissors and Scrubs. We are deep in snow. Deep in snow.
Frozen tundra over here.
It's cold. And staying with our winter theme, we're taking some expeditions.
Yes.
We're going to go high into the Andes and high into the Himalayas. We're going to go to the top of the world today and the tragedies there within, because you know how we love our tragedies.
We wouldn't go there if there wasn't.
I was just telling Laura on Netflix, I've watched 2 different specials. One was called 14 Peaks. Have you watched that one?
No, I saw that. I have to watch that.
So 14 Peaks, this Nepal, I don't know what they call it, but a guy from Nepal. This guy's a fucking badass. He's in this, what do they call them? There's a certain part of their army, and I've heard this, the phrase of what they are in different songs. They're badasses. So he's done all kinds of stuff, and he decides he wants to bring like pride to the Nepal people, because the Sherpas get no credit for the things they do, and they're a people. They're not just like a guy. They're a people called Sherpas. Right. So he decides there are 14 peaks in the world above 8,000 meters, which is 20,000 feet. It's like cruising altitude of planes. Right. Few people have done it. The first guy, I think, to do it is this Italian hiker. I mean, he's a badass. You should see him. It's just nothing but hair. And he did it in the 70s. And he did it in 7 years. It took him 7 years to climb these 14 peaks. This man decides he's going to do it in a year. And he's
going to do that in a year.
In a year. Okay. And he actually achieves it in 7 months.
Holy shit.
He climbs Everest and the other 2 peaks next to it in a weekend.
Oh, just a little weekend getaway.
In a fucking weekend he did it. Yeah. I was like, Brian, he did that. He climbed Everest and the other 2 in 48 hours.
Like, Everest went back down to the other peak, then went down and then did the other. Not like across the top.
No. Oh, you couldn't. You couldn't do it. There's no fucking way.
But I mean, like, he didn't stay up.
Like trying to jump from the Empire State Building to the Sears Tower.
No, but I mean, like he didn't stay up and like kind of.
Oh, no, he goes to the bottom because it wouldn't count if you don't
like
climb
you have
from the bottom.
To do it from the...
He has to start from the bottom.
Holy God.
I mean, the scenery is unbelievable. And to be honest with you, when he climbs and he takes you on every peak with him, Everest is the easiest.
Oh my God.
When he takes you up K2, or he takes you to there's another one, Anatom Mastiff, it's like the #1 deadliest mountain in the world. He literally, he saves like 4 people during this thing, of people who just come across that couldn't hike anymore and they were dying, and I want to get into some of the things. Unbelievable show. So you got to watch it.
I'll watch it tonight. And
the other one is The Alpinist. This will all prepare you for what we're talking about tonight. So The Alpinist is a young man, Mark Andrew? I think it's Mark Andrew. He's this young 20-something-year-old guy, and he climbs freestyle. No ropes, no nothing.
It literally makes me nauseous.
These enormous mountain faces. Just, like, I was sweating watching this kid. He goes to Patagonia, and he climbs the Torre, which is the spire. And most climbers climb it in the summertime. No, he goes in the wintertime.
Oh, of course.
And he's going to climb it in the middle of a fucking snowstorm.
Of course.
So these shows, they're hard to watch because they're stressful. But holy shit, these 2 people, wow. All I could say is wow. And I just sit back and think, I can watch it on Netflix all day long. I have no desire.
I climbed Tuckerman's Ravine. That was enough.
Yeah. Do you know Mount Washington is either just above Everest as the most dangerous or just below? It is. I was
telling that to somebody recently.
No, it's true.
That lives in New Hampshire. I'm like, I think Mount Washington is like one of the most dangerous mountains in the world. And they're like, what are you talking? It's so low. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure.
It's in the top 10. And I'm going to go as far as to say it's in the top 6.
I'm like, I know it is. And they're like, no, there's no way. It's not even high. I'm like, I'm telling you, I know.
The highest winds in the world have been recorded at the top of Mount Washington. So people go up there thinking it's nothing. This is a stupid little mountain. This is stupid. It's not that high. It's stupid.
Yeah.
The weather's what's going to get you up there. People don't expect it. The snowstorms that come
Well, you go in Tuckerman's Ravine in the summer. It's a bowl of
ice.
snow. People are skiing.
Yeah.
In the summer.
Yep.
In New Hampshire.
And so we climbed up the backside, and we climbed up to the base of Tuckerman's.
Uh-huh.
And there's a little, and the only reason we stopped was because it was pouring rain, but when we got up there was a cabin, and it was like a ranger's cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And on the ranger's cabin was a list of all the people who have died on Mount Washington. Yeah. Flooding, avalanches, exposure.
There's a lot of avalanches in that bowl.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. So, that being said.
Well, then I guess I'm pretty good if I hiked Tuckerman's Ravine.
I hiked to the
child at the time.
I hiked to base in July.
I was preteen.
Oh, there you go.
I'm an advanced mountaineer.
So I take my kids up. God bless. And this particular path, this is the path the skiers will use, but it's all rocks. It's very rocky.
Oh, yeah, it was all rocks.
Right. So we're going to do it. And it's like, it won't rain until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So we left at like 9 in the morning, right? We get to the top of to the bottom of Tux, and it's 11 o'clock.
Oh, my God.
Here comes the rain. Like, deluge downpour pouring on us. I'm like, fuck. And I got 3 kids, young kids. So I was like, okay. And my oldest must have been, he's 17 now, 13, 14 maybe. And my daughter was freezing because she's in a tank top. You know, we did the stupid thing, thinking it will be up and down in no time. So I looked at them and I was like, and I probably shouldn't talk to my kids this way, but I did. I was like, listen, the hike down's going to suck. It's going to suck bad. And I know it. I don't want to hear the whole way down how bad it sucks because I know it's going to suck. Right. And my oldest, I make fun of him and everything, but when it's against the wall, he steps up every time. So my daughter's cold. He gives her his shirt. On the way up, we had found somebody hung like a fleece on a tree. On the way down, we passed it again. He's like, now he's got no shirt on. He's cold. He's like, what do you think, Mom? I said, God put that there for a reason. I don't care what it smells like. I don't care if it's covered in lice. If you're freezing, putting on, we'll deal with it at the bottom. Yeah. And he takes some random jacket, sticks it on. By the end of the trail on the way down, we were laughing. Because I just was doing anything to distract them. We're talking stories. Let's play the picnic game. Anything to distract them from the misery of climbing these wet rocks in the rain 2 hours down. Yeah. But we survived.
Good job.
We survived. Okay, so I survived that, but I don't think I would survive either one of our stories today. I don't think so. So Laura's going to take it away, Sparkles.
I'd curl up and die somewhere.
Yeah, I would be miserable. I would be the one they use for dinner.
Yeah. All right. So I'm talking about the Andes. They're in South America. Huge, big, huge mountain range. Yeah, and you wouldn't because, it's between Uruguay and Argentina and Chile, which all warm.
Well, Argentina is where Patagonia is. Yeah. On the tip of the earth, and it's freezing.
Because they're so high.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on October 12th, 1972,
I wasn't even born yet. I never say
real
that anymore.
Story.
I never get to say that anymore.
The Old Christians Club, which was a Uruguayan amateur rugby team, chartered a flight from Montevideo, Uruguay to Santiago, Chile to attend a rugby match. The white, remember that, twin-engined Fairchild turboprop plane had 5 crew members and 40 passengers, which consisted of the club members and their family and friends because they had more people go on to lower the cost of the flight.
So it's a decent-sized plane if there's 40 people.
There's 45 people on it, yeah. Because it was bad weather in the mountains, they had to stay overnight in Mendoza, Argentina. They departed again on October 13th around 2:18 p.m. The plane could not fly higher, like the plane was not engineered to fly higher than 22,500 feet. So they couldn't fly directly to their destination because the Andes are there.
Yeah, because you can't get over them.
Right. You would have to go higher than that to get over these mountains. So instead, they had to plot a course south to the Pass of Planchon, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, which is,
I know exactly where that is, Laura.
Yep. Where the plane could safely clear the Andes because, there's like a big dip there, so they could go through that. Around 3:15 p.m., the pilot radios the air traffic controllers that he was flying over the pass, and shortly after radioed that he had reached Curacao, Chile, 110 miles south of Santiago, and was turning north to go to Santiago.
So he makes it through the pass. Okay.
The controllers clear him.
I'm not going to ask any questions until you're done.
You can start descending to land because you're now cleared of all that. You're going to go to Santiago and land at your destination. Problem was, the pilot was wrong about their location. He had no idea where they were. He was confused as to where they were. They were not clear of the Andes.
How is he confused? Does it get into it?
No,
I
don't know if it's the weather or he couldn't see them. You know, just by he's probably going by the gauges and misreading them.
You don't
want to
be confused out there.
Mm-mm. Yeah, he had complete wrong location. The plane is still in the Andes. They are not clear of the Andes. Shortly after they cleared the plane for landing, air traffic control loses contact with the plane. So they think these people are out here in Chile somewhere, out of the Andes.
Right.
They're not. At about 3:30 p.m. on October 13th, the plane hit the Andes with the right wing, which snapped off. That wing then hit and severed the tail of the plane off.
Oh, and now they got no help at all. They're done.
Then the left wing hits, a part of the mountains.
Now it's just a fuselage.
That snaps off. The fuselage crashes in a remote valley of Argentina near the Chilean Valley. 7 people were sucked out of the plane right away. Like when the tail comes off, 7 people are sucked out. And 5 people died on impact.
Out of the 40. That's not a lot.
That left 33 survivors.
Holy moly.
A lot of which were injured, obviously. Yeah. And that left them to survive at an altitude of 11,500 feet in snow, freezing temps, and what's on board a plane to eat?
Nothing.
You get some candy and little bottles of wine.
You get the Biscoffs.
That's all they had. A couple things of candy and a couple things of wine. And they're in a broken fuselage for protection. Yep. It's broken up. The wings are broken up. The tail's broken. There's all this open space. So these people, God bless them, are smart because I would have curled up and died.
I would have had the bottle of wine. I know. And I would have gotten hypothermia and buried myself in the snow.
Just gonna go over here.
And I'm done. I'm done.
They ripped aluminum from the seats to put snow in, to melt snow to get a constant stream of water.
That makes sense.
So that was good on them.
I mean, that's the one thing is they have water.
Yes, they had water. But you can't drink just the snow because then you're freezing already. So then it just drops your body temp.
But you can survive for a very long time without food.
Yes. They rearranged materials in the fuselage to provide protection from the elements. So they, like any chairs that were loose, they put them up against the holes in the fuselage to try to give them some protection from the elements. One survivor talks about having 1 chocolate-covered peanut left. One day.
There were clearly no Italians on this plane because I go on a plane, I pack a fucking Italian sub for each kid. I know. I got chips. I got Cokes.
Just like, it was supposed to be like a short hop.
They were still, I get hungry. You know how I am, Laura.
I know.
I always have food.
I know.
Fishies, crackers.
Yeah, they didn't have that.
So Vitas.
On day 1 of just the 1 chocolate-covered peanut left, he puts it in his mouth and he all day just sucks the chocolate off the peanut. Not eating it.
That's discipline.
Yep. Day 2. He leaves the peanut in his mouth, like sucks on the peanut on his mouth for hours.
How is there any peanut left?
Like a little teeny bit, and would only allow himself like a little teeny tiny nibble a couple times a day.
That's discipline.
3rd day, again,
peanut.
puts the peanut back in his mouth. Eventually, on the 3rd day, it disintegrates. Now there is nothing left. There is no food left.
So we're on day 3.
Yeah. So, well, I think the food lasted for about a week. He had this, whenever. Yeah. But after a week, all the food's gone because it was like nothing on it. It was snacks. The plane was searched for 8 days. However, the last known, quote unquote, area of the plane was wrong.
Right. So they're looking in the wrong area.
Right. They were in a white plane in the Andes in the snow. You can't see shit. You can't see it. You're going with the snow. And also, the very harsh environment led to people to believe there's no survivors. Mm-hmm. They crashed. They're in the mountains somewhere. No one lived. So after 8 days, they stopped the search.
Oh, man.
So the little food rations, like I said, were gone after a week. The survivors had very lengthy discussions and finally decided to be able to survive in these conditions and to wait for someone to come get us. They needed to eat the corpses of the dead passengers to stay alive. There's no source of food. I mean, there's literally no source of food. Some didn't want to partake in this. Some were like, no, I can't do that. You can do that. I can't do that. But they find a transistor radio and hear on the radio that the searches were called off. So now they know.
So they can't.
There's no one coming.
They
like
can't
these people were hoping to hold out till someone came and got them. Like, I'm not going to do that. I can wait. And then they hear they're done searching, and they're like, well, no, now we have to. Like, there is no help coming, so we have to do something. So they all decide to eat the
what's left over
dead bodies,
which have been sitting in the snow for a week.
But they're frozen.
Yeah, that's true.
So they use shards of glass, like that is broken off on the plane, to just remove little slivers of meat from the buttocks because it's muscular.
It depends on who it is.
Well, they're rugby players.
You're not getting but pork rinds off of my ass.
Rugby players. Those
That's true.
Guys got the butts.
Well, there's family members, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
On day 18, there was an
day
avalanche.
18?
Mm-hmm. They're out there. There's nothing. They're out there.
But nobody's leaving to go and get help either.
Not yet.
Okay.
So on day 18, there's an avalanche, which buried the fuselage and killed another 8 people.
Oh.
So this just gets the whole group. We have to do something.
Right.
Like, we cannot just sit here. We are all going to die. So it strengthens their resolve to get out there and get help.
I'm sorry, what month is this?
October.
Oh, so this is the beginning of the winter.
Yeah.
This isn't even the end.
So they're all weak. I mean, they're not.
Right. It's been 2 weeks in the Andes.
Right. 3 weeks. Almost 3 weeks. 3 weeks. They're all weak. None of them are mountaineers. They're rugby players. They have no fucking idea how to survive in the mountains. They have nothing with them to survive in the mountains. But they're smart. They gathered equipment. They made a sled out of like shit from the plane. They sewed material together to make a sleeping bag. And they selected 3 people to set out to
Probably
try
the
to
3
find
of the
help.
healthiest.
Yeah, whoever's the strongest that can make it. They tried for a long time to send these people out, like after they made this stuff, but like weather would happen or this would happen and they couldn't go. So on December 12th, they crashed October 13th.
Shit.
With 16 survivors left.
That's over a month.
It's like 2 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. 16 survivors were left. 3 men set out to go find help.
16 of the 30-something are left?
Of 45 people. There was 45 people on that plane.
Right, but
16
then
left.
33 were still alive after
Yes,
the
and
crash.
now it's 16.
Wow.
Yeah. So 3 of them set out. 1 comes back very shortly after because when they were walking, they realized we're going to run out of our resources that we have, like whatever they must have
3
brought
is too
some
many.
meat with them.
Yeah.
They, the sleeping bag, the sled, they were like, whatever we have, it's going to be too many. One has to go back. 2 will keep on. So somehow between their weakness, the freezing cold, the severe altitude sickness, because they're up on the top of a mountain, they ascended 15,000 foot peak. These people who have been out in the fucking cold for 2 months climb a 15,000 foot peak. It's the one that was nearest the crash site. They get to the top. They're at the peak. They survey the land. Like, what are we looking at? Is there anything happening? They decided to go down the opposite side of the mountain than the plane was on. Then they make their way. There's like a glacier below. They have to like get around the glacier below them.
With no crampons, no ice
nothing.
packs.
They have nothing. On December 18th, they hear running water. So they're shitting themselves. They're at the mouth of a river. So they start following
the river. Because somebody's on it.
Right. They're like, somebody's got to be on a river. On December 19th, they see signs of civilization. They see a horseshoe, cow dung, a soup can.
Can you imagine how awesome they must have
I know.
felt?
And on December 20th, across the river, they see a man on a horse. Of course, this is not going to be easy. The river's so loud, the man across the river can't hear them. He sees them. Yeah. He can't hear them. He leaves. The next day, that man comes back with another guy. The survivors try to mime, plane crash, mountain. They're trying to tell him that one of the guys but then I'm like, we look like lunatics. They're not going to come over here because we're acting crazy. So one of the guys, I'm going to call them rescuers, on the other side of the river is like, okay, fuck this. I don't know what they're saying. Gets a rock, puts a note around it, and literally whips it across the river. I don't know what they have to write with.
Right.
Blood. I don't know what they're writing with.
Maybe there was something with the paper.
The survivors, so the survivors get the rock. It pretty much says, what the hell happened? And they write back, our plane crashed. There's more people up the mountain. We need help. Later that morning, a man appears on their side of the river. And all of a sudden, they're in a camp, in a heated tent. getting hot food.
God, could you imagine
I
how
know.
that must have felt?
The Chilean police show up. Reporters show up because these guys probably told like whoever they live near. Rescue helicopters arrive. The police still kind of don't believe this story because it's like, there's no fucking way. You've been out here for 2 months. You survived a plane crash. You summited a mountain. You came down the other side of a glacier. You found these people. There's no fucking way this happened. But they do go and search for the fuselage. The survivors go with them to try to help them find it. The weather is like awful. The helicopter's shuddering. The guy lost his bearings because they had to go like a different way. So he's like, I don't even know where to look anymore. All of a sudden they see a couple black dots in the snow. And they're like, that's it. There it is. There it is. They get down there. They evacuate 6 survivors. But because of the bad weather, they have to leave. And leave the other 8 there.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
Can you imagine being those 8? I mean, what the fuck? Climb me on. Just get me on. Like,
I'd be hanging on to the little runner on the bottom.
I'll just go. I swear I can make it. So the next morning they go back, get the other 8. They're all taken off the mountain. They survived 72 days in the Andes.
No, I
with
wouldn't.
no
I would have been the
supplies.
one they were eating.
Yeah.
Nope.
72 days. However, like these,
I don't have that kind of will.
No, that's miraculous. Like,
right.
You have to have the willpower to stay alive is unreal. The media catches wind of the whole story, though.
And it gets viral.
These guys. It was cannibalism.
Right.
Which is very taboo.
Yeah.
You don't do cannibalism. The survivors are shunned. They're like looked down on. It's terrible. You're awful people. You went against God. Like,
what are you supposed
shunned.
to do? Yeah.
However, the survivors start talking about the conditions, like what happened. One of them kind of likened it to the Last Supper. Like Jesus said, eat bread and wine, but it's my body and blood.
Right.
Like that's what we did to stay alive. Like to people, that story helped normalize
I would never
what they
shun
did.
anybody for that.
No. It kind of helped sway public opinion. Like, okay, these guys did what they had to do. They would have all died, blah, blah, blah. And the church ends up absolving them.
Oh, good.
Of their sins. So they felt much better about it. And I got that information from history.com and Britannica.com.
Wow. You know, I've never heard that story.
Stop
I never
it.
watched the movie. I never, because you know what? It disturbs me. And then I get stressed out. Like, what if that was me? Like, all these crashes where people live and nobody sees. I just can't imagine what it must have been like.
You've never heard that story?
I've heard of the story.
Yeah.
I've never actually heard what happened, though. I've never listened to the actual story. All right, Laurel. We're going from the Andes.
Okay.
We're going to the Himalayas.
Okay.
We're going to Nepal. And we're climbing Everest.
Okay.
I'm going to cover the story of the ill-fated Everest climb of May 10th, 1996.
Okay.
So a couple of years ago, long time ago, let's start a long time ago, in probably 97 or 98, the IMAX at the Museum of Science had Everest.
Yes, I remember that.
And I remember going to the IMAX, and they took a team, and they climbed to the top of Everest, and they took the IMAX to the top. It was fucking amazing. And I remember at the end of the movie, they paid tribute to the people who died in that season. And it was like a blurb about the season. I can't remember what it said. And I was like, oh, that's sad. And then for some reason, a couple of years ago, I must have been watching something, a documentary, and I decided to read Into Thin Air by John, I'm going to say his name wrong. I'm going to call him Krakauer, but that's not, it's like Krakauer or something like that. Krakatoa. And I got hooked. And then I'm like deep diving into Everest, because Everest, again, is one of those things like Rasputin. I'm always fascinated by it. I think because I don't understand the drive. It's history with death and that people are left there. It fascinates me. So then I watched the movie Everest. My son went as an Everest survivor for Halloween. I did frostbite makeup on him. He looked fucking amazing. So we're going to cover Everest, and I'm going to try to cover the story the best I can. It gets very involved because the story is the people.
Right.
And so I can't give you everything he wrote clearly, or this would be 1,000 hours long. So I'll do my best to cover these people and cover some of the things. But if you really want to know the story, watch Everest. It's a little different than the book, but it gives you a taste of it. Because it's an unbelievable story. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about Mount Everest.
Okay.
It's named after Sir George Everest, who in 1865 looked at it and said, I think that's the tallest mountain in the world. Yeah, you're fucking right it is. He got the height wrong, but then they redid it. It's still the tallest mountain in the world.
Yeah.
So in 1924, George Mallory and Andrew Irvine were seen 800 feet from the summit before being engulfed by bad weather. They were not seen again until 1999 when their bodies were finally found still on Everest.
Oh.
The wind has blown a hole in the back of his jacket, but he's still wearing the same tweed jacket he climbed Everest in.
Jacket, yeah.
Okay. So the first actual climbers to summit Everest don't summit till 1953, May 29th, 1953, which was Sir Edmund Hillary from New Zealand and his Sherpa, Tenzing Norgay. Mm-hmm. Tenzing Norgay's grandson, I believe, is one of the Sherpas that was on this Everest thing. So Everest, being the tallest peak in the world, most of the year is completely engulfed in the jet stream. Mm-hmm. So you almost can never see the top of it. You'll see the winds whipping over it. It's unclimbable for most of the year. In a very short time in May and a very short time in September, you get like a 2-week window that you have to climb, which is when anybody who's going to try to climb Everest, that's when they're going to be there. Mm-hmm. There are areas on the mountain. There is an area below the northern ridge of Everest that's known as Rainbow Valley. Okay. And it's called Rainbow Valley because it's filled with about 200 bodies, and the rainbow is all of the jackets. Oh. Because if you die on Everest...
I knew it wasn't something good.
It would cost you $75,000 to try to retrieve the body, and that's not a guarantee because it's extremely difficult to get a body off. So bodies become landmarks on Everest. There's a guy called Green Boots, and he's laying on his side, and they never show you his face, and his green boots are sticking out. So they'll be like, okay, you're going to climb. You're going to go past the, Kombu Falls, and you're going to go past Green Boots, and then you're going to pass the woman with the flowing hair, and then you're going to take a right.
No.
There's bodies all over this fucking mountain.
I don't want directions by passing bodies.
That alone tells you, why would you do this? Right. You know, because so they become like
I also don't want to be a landmark.
Right. Yeah. They become landmarks. Mm-hmm. So there's also... on any mountain is the death zone. And the death zone is above 8,000 meters, which is like 26,000 meters. It's like the cruising altitude of a 747. Mm-hmm. That's your death zone. You get above the death zone, you need oxygen to hike. There are purist climbers, alpinists, who believe you don't climb any of these without... A true climber will do it without oxygen.
Okay.
When you get to the death zone, you are dying by the minute. Mm-hmm. You are literally dying because your body, like the ocean, you are not meant to be hundreds of feet under the water or thousands of feet in the air. That's not where we live.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we've talked about Mount Everest. It's the tallest mountain of them all at 29,029 feet.
Wow.
As of May 23rd, 2021, 309 people have died on the mountain.
That's it?
That's it. You would think more.
I would have thought.
But they've only been climbing it since 1953.
Yeah.
All right.
And not many people.
Not many people.
Yeah.
So on May 10th, 1996, it sees one of its deadliest days. This is what we're going to talk about. But we got to talk a little bit about routes and stuff because you're going to hear them mentioned a lot. All right. So the I can't even get to where I'm going to stay. So you're going to land, I think, in Kathmandu, and then you hike to this other city, and then you hike to another town, and then you make your way up to base camp.
Okay.
Base camp. It's a lively camp. It's at 17,500 feet is base camp.
17,000 feet is base camp?
Yes.
Oh.
Mount Washington's like 8,000 feet.
Right. That's
okay?
We're doing
2 Mount Washingtons.
2 Mount Washingtons to get base camp.
To base camp.
Yeah.
It's a lively camp. It's like a small village with hundreds of tents with people from all over the world, ringing of satellite phones and constant chatter among the groups. Climbers usually rest at base camp for several days for acclimatization to reduce the risk of high altitude problems, which we'll get into those as well. You'll also see trekkers at base camp as well. Thousands of trekkers each year make their way to base camp for a view of our beautiful mountain. So maybe I might go to base camp. I mean, we're really stretching here. I land, hey, base camp, look at top of Everest. Okay, see, I'm out. That's as far as I'm ever going to get, okay? Yeah. And that's your paid
still,
for.
That's 2 Mount Washingtons.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
You're going to talk about the Kombu Ice Fall. That's at 17,999 feet. It is the most famous ice fall and is known as the most dangerous sections of climbing Everest via the South Col route. Huge crevasses and large seracs, which are these ice things. All right. Pose serious problems for climbers. Crossing through the Kombu Ice Fall can take 3 to 5 hours for a fit climber who is properly acclimatized, for more than 12 hours for an average conditioned climber with insufficient acclimatization. Oh, so 5 hours for fit, 12 hours for unfit. And as you'll hear, there are many people who do not belong on fucking Everest, climbing Everest.
Oh my God.
Most climbers try to head out as early as 4 a.m. before the ice begins to thaw, which decreases the risk of danger when traversing the Kombu Ice Fall.
Oh my God.
So, when you go to, you decide you're going to climb Everest. Why? I don't fucking know. It's going to be a 6-week expedition because you get to base camp and you're going to climb through the ice fall and you're going to go to Camp 1 and then you're going to come down. Then you're going to go to Camp 2, Camp 1, come down. Camp 2, Camp 3, come down. Camp 1, come down. Camp 3, Camp 4, down. Like you're going to keep to get used to the altitude. So over the course of 6 weeks, you're going to go up and down fucking Everest I don't know how many times before you're actually going to make the ascent to the top. Which is why the guy from 14 Peaks, he did it, he just fucking climbed it. He doesn't have to he's from Nepal. He doesn't have to get acclimatized. So then you have Camp 1, which is at 19,685 feet. And at the end of the Kombu Ice Fall is Camp 1. Camp 1 is a vast area of endless snow, deep crevasses, and dangerous ice walls prone to avalanches.
Awesome.
You start early in the season, as by the end of May. The snow starts to soften, which makes climbing more difficult. When leaving Camp 1, climbers can also experience extreme heat in this section, as there are no natural protections for the sun rays to climb to Camp 2. And you also have to remember, you are 19,000 feet closer to the sun. Right. So they're going to get burned, and it's fucking hot. And it's reflecting off the white snow and the ice. Now you're going to hear these camps repeatedly mentioned in the story. Camp 2, 21,000 feet. It is the last rocky outcrop. You go outside and you crap. Outcrop before the Lhotse face. I had never played. They're all, foreign words. So I'm going to call it the Lhotse face. Camp 2 is considered to provide the most stunning views with clouds rolling in from the Himalayas into camp. Go fuck yourself. The climb to Camp 3 is via the Lhotse Wall, which can be very challenging. It is a sheet of ice, and you need to be careful as you traverse Camp 3. It's carved into the mountain, and your tent must be secured to the mountain.
Nope, I don't like that. I don't like when they do that.
To reach Camp 4, you need to traverse 2 rocky sections on the wall known as the Yellow Band and the Black Turtle, which lead to the Death Zone. So Camp 4 is in the fucking Death Zone.
Awesome.
And they're staying there overnight many times, okay? And at the end of the story, they spend a couple of nights in Camp 4.
Oh my God.
Camp 4 really should just be a pea stop. Camp 4, 26,300 feet. So Death Zone's above 2,600 feet. Camp 4 rests on a plateau between Mount Everest and the Lhotse, the 4th mountain on the Earth, highest mountain on Earth, called the South Col. And it is what is known as the Death Zone. Okay, so it's Camp 4 is in between, I guess, the two peaks.
The 2 peaks.
So you can finish going up to the Lhotse or Lhotse. Please don't judge me on my saying these. The Death Zone starts, there you go, here's your answer. The Death Zone starts at 23,000 feet and is where the body begins to die from lack of oxygen. The scenery at Camp 4 is magical, as you have a clear view at many of the Himalayan giants rising through the clouds. Can't wait.
You're also probably high from a lack of oxygen.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
The summit, 29,029 feet.
No.
From Camp 4, you climb to the peak through the small plateau of the South Summit. The South Summit becomes crucial in this part of the story. And then you cross the knife ridge, a sharp and steep...
knife ridge?
Yep.
That sounds awful.
And it looks like the edge of a blade.
Of a knife?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're 29,000 feet in the air.
Nope,
okay?
Nope.
And then the Hillary Step's in the middle. Hillary Step, after Sir Edmund Hillary. It is a steep rock face and the last major obstacle before reaching the summit.
Then they know they have to come back down, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's when everybody dies.
Just checking.
Because they get summit fever.
Right.
So they're so obsessed with reaching the summit, they get there
and then
they collapse.
Yeah.
And they don't have any energy to get back down. Yeah. For those who reach the summit, they have accomplished something extraordinary.
Yeah.
But the seasoned mountaineers know that getting to the summit is only half the battle. Mm-hmm. They must have the strength and fortitude to get back down to base camp. So, those are your camps.
Okay.
Those are your routes. Okay. Those are your landmarks. Okay. All right?
Mm-hmm. They all sound awful.
Right.
Yeah.
So the moment you land in Kathmandu, if you live, say, in Swampscott, you're going to immediately hit altitude sickness because you're living at sea level. Mm-hmm. So you have altitude related. I have to cover all these because they all take place in the story and you need to know what this shit is. All right. Altitude related illnesses account for about 38 of the 300 deaths and is the reason why many, I don't know what I wrote. Oh, they have to abort the climb. So they start getting up and they start getting these sickness. So altitude sickness can occur anytime you're above 8,000 feet above sea level. There are 3 levels of altitude sickness. So you start off with acute mountain sickness. You and I would get this if we flew into Denver.
Okay.
All right. It's going to feel like a hangover. You're going to get dizzy. You're going to get a headache. You get muscle aches, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, loss of energy, shortness of breath, sleep problems, appetite problems. Usually, if you just chill for a couple of days at that altitude, your body's going to acclimate. Mm-hmm. These symptoms will start 12 to 24 hours of reaching a higher elevation. As your body adjusts, you feel better. The second stage is HAPE, high altitude pulmonary edema.
Yes.
Risk factors for HAPE: prior history of altitude sickness. You ascend rapidly, like if somebody just dropped you on top of. Brian was like, maybe somebody could just fly me to the top of Everest.
You'd be sick as shit.
Yeah. You die.
Yeah.
Because you're immediately going to go into pulmonary edema. Your body's going to be like, what the fuck? There's no air. Even with oxygen, I don't know if you could just drop somebody at the top of Everest. Maybe. So you ascend rapidly from low elevation to over 8,000 feet. You're going to have you have a history of medical problems breathing. So you already have bronchitis. You have pulmonary edema already. You have COPD. You're going to be fucked. Or you have not been at that altitude for weeks. So you were there, you left, you've been gone 3-4 months, your body's back to sea level, you go back, you could get it. Mm-hmm. So signs and symptoms of HAPE: headache, shortness of breath, which worsens when you're resting. You're going to get more short of breath resting. Dry cough at first, later frothy pink sputum in the cough. You're going to get high heart rate, weakness, chest pain, and you start with a low-grade fever. Your treatment is to get them out of the altitude immediately. They need rest and they need supplemental O2. If it's severe, you're going to go right into death.
Okay. Pulmonary edema
is never good.
Always bad.
Never good. And so if your pulmonary edema isn't bad enough, the third stage is Haste, high altitude cerebral edema.
Oh, God.
So now your brain's fucked.
Yeah.
All right, so you're going to get ataxia, which that's difficulty speaking, right? Like you can't get your words out.
Like I have every day.
Extreme fatigue, altered mental status, and it can produce to a coma and brain hemorrhage and death within 24 hours. Treatment is immediate descent until symptoms improve, and if you can't descend, they look like sleeping bags, little portable hyperbaric chambers.
Oh, really?
To get your body back to where it needs to be. Okay. So because it's so dangerous to climb Mount Everest and people are trying to prevent it, you need a permit to climb.
Okay.
So Nepal keeps making it higher and higher and higher. And so it could be up to $70,000 to get a permit. But then China's like, $1,500. So everybody will go and climb. Because Everest rests on Nepal-China border. So Tibet's on one side, Nepal's on the other. So they'll just go up the Tibet side. So Nepal loses all that money and they need it. So they are trying to limit how many people go in a party, how much money. They still are charging more than China, but it's easier access from the Nepal side, so people are willing to pay it. The people on this particular expedition in 1996 paid $65,000 apiece to climb Everest.
You are paying $65,000 to almost definitely commit suicide.
Yeah, exactly. $65,000. And the other problem is you have to climb with oxygen. Each person is requiring multiple cans of oxygen, and they just leave them on Everest. Mm-hmm. So they've also started a program for the Sherpas and for climbers that if you bring one down, they'll pay you to bring a bottle down. But it kills me to think that this beautiful, pristine piece of nature is littered with bodies and trash. Mm-hmm. So Rob Hall is one of the characters of the story. Rob Hall started Adventure. Of course, I'm blanking on the second half of the name. He starts an adventure company. He is the first person to commercialize the climb to Everest. So he starts a company. You pay him $65,000 and he will take you to the top of Everest. He had climbed Everest multiple times before. He's a great guy. Everybody loved him. He is married and his wife is pregnant when he goes in May 1996. On his team, oh God, it's driving me crazy that I can't remember the name of his Adventure Consultants. Adventure Consultants is what the name of the group is. He also has another guide, Mike Groom. There is Andy Harold Harris. He's a young guy, nice guy. So he's got these three guides. They've all climbed with him as well. They also have Sherpas with them. I can never pronounce their names.
Yeah.
So each group, there was multiple groups this day going up, but I'm only going to talk really about two. In each group, their Sherpa guides were fiercely loyal to the heads of their groups. So not Mike Groom, Rob Hall's Sherpa, like, I think it was Anadori, and I'm going to get his name wrong, but he was like obsessed with with Rob. He was his best friend. Okay. I can't go through everybody, but you have to know some major characters. So Doug Hansen is one of the members of the an everyday Joe Schmo that's going to climb. He's a postal worker in the U.S. He tried to summit Everest the year before, 1995, and he didn't make it to the top.
I'm sorry. A postal worker?
He's a postal worker. Yeah.
Could pay twice.
The second time, people, like, the big thing was school kids helped raise money for him to get this trip. And Rob, because it was he couldn't make it the first time, discounted him the trip.
Okay. Because that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
In 1996,
he works
even
3
more.
jobs to get this.
Oh my God.
So the first year he went, he almost gets to the top. He has to get turned back. And when he would get to the top, and once he has to turn back, he collapses. He's like a zombie. They can barely get him back down the mountain. He suffers frostbite, and he was having breathing issues on that trip. Before he doesn't make it to the top in 1995, and Rob calls him, and he's like, I could never forgive myself. I had to make it to the top. This was like, I had to do it again. And Rob convinces him, let's do this again. He gives him the discount, this and that. A month before he goes on the trip, he has major larynx surgery.
Oh,
okay? Okay.
That sounds bad.
Yep. Dr. Beck Weathers. He's a pathologist from Texas. This guy is a fucking badass. So all I'm going to tell you, you'll hear about him later.
Right.
Yasuka Namba. She is a Japanese woman. She is 47 years old, and she's hoping to be the oldest woman to summit all 14 peaks, or 7 summits. Maybe it's a continent, each continent.
Yeah.
Because there's the 14 peaks, and then there's the highest on every continent.
Okay.
So I think this was her 7th. She was going to do that.
Okay.
All right. So John Krakauer, he's the guy, that's the name, Krakauer, not Crackhead. So that's the guy who writes the book Into Thin Air. He is a journalist for Outside Magazine.
Okay.
And both Rob Hall's group, and you're going to hear about Scott Fisher's group, he was supposed to go and write for Scott Fisher's group, but Rob Hall group gets him.
Okay.
All right. So he's climbing Everest for free. He is an experienced climber. That's why he works for Outside Magazine. He had done it. So his company, I think, wants him there to write about all the shit that's going on in Everest, all these people climbing. But, he's going to climb it. He's really psyched about this. So he prepares for a year. He put off the whole assignment so he could train to climb Everest. Excuse me again. Then you have a Stewart Hutchinson. He's from California. Frank Fishback. He's from China. Lou Kosickle and Dr. John Task. Kosickle is from the USA. Task is from Australia. Susan Allen's from Australia. Nancy Hutchinson's from Canada. Canada is whatever. Canada. Okay, so then you have Mountain Madness. This is a United States group that kind of is copying what Rob Hall's doing. They're head by Scott Fisher. In the movie, he's played by Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah. Why? Because he looks nothing like Scott Fisher. That's all I can write. So he's a U.S. guy. He's climbed Everest, but he's never guided Everest. So he has to prove himself on this mountain. Okay. At home, he has a wife. The wife is, and he's got a little son. It's 9. Scott's one of these. All of these people are fucked. They're all these weird people that want to camp in the fucking rainforest, eat bugs like Bear Grylls. They do weird shit. I can't wrap my head around it. I'm sure they get off on it. I'm sure they see the best views in the world. I'm good.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good. So on a previous expedition, he picks up. I'm going to have it written down. He picks up a bug. He picks up a parasite.
Okay.
I'll give you the name later. I'm going to come across it later on in my notes. This parasite comes and goes. Okay, he never really can get rid of it. When it comes out, it causes extreme fatigue, fevers, chills. He gets bloody shits. When he's stressed, it comes out more. So normally it will appear once a week, once a month. He'll see it. Before he even gets going, it's happening every day to him. He's under the weather on this trip.
Great.
Okay.
Well, he's probably stressed about climbing
Correct.
Mount Everest.
Yeah. He has a guide, Anatoly Bukharo. He's a Russian guy. He is everything you would think a Russian guy is. He's hardcore. He climbs without oxygen because that's how it's meant to be. No real climber climbs with oxygen. You're pansies. And he's just... part of his quest is he wants to do the 14 peaks.
Okay.
So he's also part of that. Neil Beetleman is another guide on this trip. Then you have Sandy Hill Pitman. She is a reporter for the New York Times, I think. She's a New York reporter. They snag her because Krakauer went with Rob's group. She's a real pain in the ass. She's everything you would expect from a New Yorker. No offense to New Yorkers, because I'm sure most of you are great, but an elite New Yorker, let's say that. Once she's at base camp, she wants her cappuccino machine. She wants kiwis flown in. She wants her own radio. She needs special battery. She's a pain.
You're in Nepal going up Mount Everest.
She didn't care.
Oh
She
God.
is a pain in the balls. And it's very controversial when you get to the end of the story. She takes a huge hit and a big blame for everything that happens. You have Charlotte Fox, Tim Madsen, Pete Showing, Kiev Showing, Gramagard, he's from Denmark, Martin Adams, Jane Bromat, and Adele Cruz. We're not going to talk about most of these people, all right? The people I'm giving you a background to are really the people that I'm going to talk about. All right, so we're going to start the story. John leaves March of 1996 to start this journey to Everest, all right? He's making his way. They go through Kathmandu, and they end up at base camp in Everest. And like I said, over the course of 6 weeks, they're up and down and up and down and up and down. And, what happens on Everest. So they're the first expedition of the season. And the Sherpas go ahead of them. The Sherpas do everything. They carry all the food, all the water. They do all the cooking. They set up the tents. They set up the lines. They set up the ladders. So they go ahead and they are taking care of making sure, because you're basically climbing a rope, like a rope ladder, not a ladder, like you're holding onto a rope the whole way up to find the way. They get to base camp, and during this time, one of the Sherpas is suffering from HAPE already.
Oh.
And it's severe. He winds up dying before they even start the climb. And the Sherpas are very superstitious. So they're already like, the mountain's mad. This isn't, maybe we shouldn't do this, but there's a lot of fucking money involved now. A lot of money, a lot of drive, a lot of everything behind this. So they watch the weather, and they watch the weather, and they watch the weather, and they decide May 10th, there's going to be a break in the weather, and this is the day we're going to make the ascent. All right. So I got to look at my notes here because I then switched to another page. Okay. So May 10th, it's like 4 a.m. No, it's like midnight. All right. They climb to Camp 3, and it's just like a hurricane. And they're like, okay, we're going to wait. And they're at Camp 4. And they have to sleep with oxygen.
Because they're in the death zone.
They're in the death zone. And the whole 6 weeks, they're all deteriorating. You're losing weight. You're losing sleep. You got the shits. They all have a cough because they're not acclimated. Right. So they're already all just not in peak condition. When you're climbing, even with the oxygen, they get like really fucked in the head. They get cloudy, you get hazy. So the thought of being in the most dangerous place on earth
And
not having my critical thinking skills with me, I just don't understand. Okay. So they're all in Camp 4. Rob's like, May 10th, we're doing this. Camp 4. I want you right. They're literally, you see them in the movie. They're just wind. It's like a fucking hurricane, and then dead quiet. It's like I said, 12 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Dead quiet. Rob's like, let's go. Be ready to go in a half an hour. Okay. They set a turnaround time of 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If we do not summit by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we absolutely have to turn around to be back at base camp at 4 in time to be safe. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, and then here I go. Here's Scott's issue. He has Entamoeba histolytica.
Sounds terrible.
It's a parasite that if you put anything that's touch feces into your mouth, you get this. So you're in these backwoods countries, there's feces in the water and shit. That's how he gets it. So he is sick. The Adventure Consultant Group, the Mountain Madness, so Rob Hall's group, Scott Fisher's group, and a Taiwanese group all decide May 10th is going to be their day. There are multiple other countries at base camp. South Africa's there. The IMAX team that I watched, they are there that day. They're all going to summit another day. So these 3 groups decide they're going to get to the top. Mm-hmm. The Taiwanese are a little bit of a problem because they're kind of like jumping, like leapfrogging and piggybacking them. And, so they're causing a problem. So Rob Hall and Scott Fisher decide to pair up together and try to summit both of their teams together on May 10th. Okay. So they start. 33 of them start up from the top. Immediately, not like an hour into the climb, Doug, the postman, steps out of line and he's just kind of standing there. And John, the writer, he is like he'll pass people. He's a better climber, so he's climbing faster. So he's hopping them off the line. So if you want to pass somebody, you've got to unclick from the line the Sherpa set. You got to walk around them and click back on and get up the mountain.
No. I'll stay right behind you.
So Doug is kind of hanging out and Rob comes up to him, says something to Doug, and Doug gets back in line and starts climbing. Okay. Now, Rob is very adamant that nobody can climb ahead of them. You have to wait for the pack. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they're going, and they're, like I said, at some point, all 3 teams become one big clump because it's just too packed up there.
Yeah.
On the start of the climb, Sandy Pitman, this is a big confusing part too. The Sherpa for Scott's team is always in front. That's his position. He stays in front. He sets the lines. He keeps everybody going. For whatever reason, he decides Sandy Pitman is the weak one. And he short ropes her. When you short rope somebody, he ties himself to her. For 6 hours, he short ropes her. So by the time he gets up to, he's half dead himself. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's part of the thing too.
And she's the writer for New York.
She's the New York writer. Right. All right. So John's a really strong climber. He keeps making his way to the head of the pack, but then he has to sit and wait 90 minutes in negative 70 degree weather, and it's frostbite in the death zone. And he's burning up O2, and he has to wait. And then they all catch up. And then he'll go a little further, and then they all catch up. And he's kind of getting frustrated. So they get to a certain point, and there's no lines set up because the Lobsang, who is the Sherpa carrying Pitman, was supposed to. They were supposed to go up on the 9th and do it. Nobody put the lines up. He was supposed to be up to make sure everything was done. He doesn't get up to the front. The only things left are the remnants from the year before, but after the wind's up there's not much left. They got to wait 90 more minutes for them to set the rest of the lines up, the Hillary step, and up to the top. All right. So, Sandy Pitman claims that she never asked Lobsang to do that, and people are like, yeah, but you never unclipped yourself either. You could have done it yourself. Okay. So, there's no lines. Now they're bottlenecked at the top, at the bottom of the Hillary steps. They're bottlenecked, waiting
on that knife edge.
Yeah, waiting. There's 33 of them waiting to summit, and they're wasting precious time and precious oxygen waiting for that to get up. So, as the traffic jam gets worse, those in the back are getting farther and farther behind. Now, Scott Fisher is supposed to be guiding his group, but he's in the back. during the base camp days, he kept having to go up and, like, just before they summit, he had to keep going back and forth, bringing people down for whatever reason. He's getting weaker and weaker. And everybody's like, Scott, you don't look good.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I got this. Nobody's going to tell him no. You know, he's got this. But he's fucking exhausted and he's got the shits. He's not doing well. So they're getting way, way behind. At 11:30, so John, I'm going to jump around because I get a little behind myself here. Okay. So now they've finally set all the ropes. John says to Rob, look, can I just get up there? He's like, yeah, go ahead. Get up to the top. So he summits. Takes a couple pictures. They rejoice. He doesn't really, because he's so addle-brained at this point from the lack of oxygen, he can't really enjoy the top of the summit, but they take a couple of pictures. The Russian guide makes it to the top with him, and I think Mike Groom is at the top with him, which is one of Rob Hall's guys. So one of Scott Fisher's guys is at the top, and one of Rob Hall's guys at the top. The three of them do their thing. Krakauer's like, fucking see you later. I'm heading back down. Shortly after he gets to the top, I don't remember the guy's name, one of the other climbers is an airline pilot. And Krakauer's like, I look and I saw clouds. I'm in the sky. I don't think anything of it. The airline pilot, who's trained to know clouds, looked at the clouds, knew these are thunderhead clouds. He's like, when we're flying, you get the fuck away from those clouds. I'm climbing, I'm going the fuck down. As they were climbing, before they even summit, 3 of the climbers from, I believe, Rob's group were like, it's already too late in the day. We're freezing. We've been waiting out here for an hour. They headed back. They went right back to Camp 4, and they were going to wait for everybody else. So they may have even been after John, because John comes down the mountain, and he sees Beck Weathers. Now, Beck Weathers was climbing. Before he had this experience, had started climbing Everest a couple of years prior, he had eye surgery.
Oh.
The pressure of the air and the cold, he's going blind. He can't see. So at some point he was making the other climbs because he was stepping in people's footprints, but now he can't even do that anymore. So he tells Rob, I can't see anymore. I can't do this. And Rob's like, sit here and wait for me. I'll be back in like an hour. Wait for me. Promise me you'll wait for me. In the movie, it's played differently, but in the book, this is what he's told. Wait for me. Do not move because then I won't know where you are. Yeah. He's like, okay. So he's fucking freezing, sitting there waiting. Still. So John comes by. He's like, Beck, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm cold. But Rob told me to wait here. He's like, well, I'll take you down. He's like, no, I'll wait for Rob. I'll wait till Rob comes down. The 3 people who turn around pass him. They're like, Beck, come down with us. We'll take you down. He's like, no. I'll wait for Rob. I'll wait for a guide or something. I'll wait for them. And he's just sitting there fucking freezing to death. Okay. So, he is on the way down. Now, Andy Harold is another guide on Rob's team. On the way down, he's passing Andy because Andy's going back and forth. And he says to Andy, can you I want to conserve my energy. Can you turn my O2 down? Andy's like, yep. Cranks it. So now he blows through all his oxygen. All right. Page 1. All right. As he's coming down, he's looking at all these climbers. Now he's on the way. Is? John. He's like, it's 11:30, and the turnaround's 2:00. He's already an hour down. He knows these people are never going to make the fucking top, and nobody's turning around. So he could see they're tired and they can barely walk, and they still have 3 hours more to climb. So he already has a couple of climbers turned back, and Rob, he is upset that only 3 of his climbers are going to summit because that's not going to look good next year when he's going to do this. Yeah. So John is like an hour in the death zone, and he's feeling it mentally. The mental problems coming big in here. And he sees this Andy Harold. He's next to a stash of O2 bottles. So they stashed O2 bottles on the southern summit. Or the southern call. I don't know, southern somewhere. They stash a bunch of O2 bottles. John's like, I need an O2 bottle. Harold's like, they're all empty. He's like, they're not empty, John. Give me an O2 bottle. He's like, no, they're empty. He's like, I've tested them all. They're all empty. He's like, they're not empty. I know there's fresh bottles. So at this point, they're like, either Harold's valve had frozen up and he couldn't, Andy Harold's valve had frozen up and he couldn't tell, or he was already suffering mentally. And he didn't recognize it because he's already suffering mentally. So he just kind of fucking ignores him. He takes an oxygen tank and he starts back down the mountain. So now as he's coming down, now he's hitting clouds. It's getting harder. Now it's starting to snow. Wind's kicking up. Shit's getting real. And that's going up the mountain. All right. Rob, he's passing Rob as well because Rob is waiting for Doug. He's waiting for Yasuko. And he has to wait and he has to wait and he'd go back. So Doug's like, not Doug. John Krakauer is like, I'm going back to get base forward. Do I have to wait for you? He's like, no, go. Get back there. So even though it's snowing and even though the storm's coming in, Rob's still trying to get to the summit. Okay. Now 2:00 has come and gone. 3:00 has come and gone. Now it is 4:00. Rob is calling base camp because at base camp, each team has doctors and staff that run the thing. He's calling base camp. He's like, we're still up. I'm waiting on Doug. He's going to come around the corner any minute now. And they're like, okay, well, you got to get the fuck out of there because there's a storm coming. He's like, yeah, we're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here. When they show you the movie, you see Doug get to the top and touch the top and then do the same fucking thing, completely collapse. Nobody knows what really happened when Doug got to the top. But they do know they don't know if he ever, if he may have summited or what happened. They could not get him to move after that. He fucking collapses at 4:00, storms on them. As one of the other guides is coming down, now this is at 4:45. Somebody sees Beck Weathers again. I think Mike Groom sees him. And now Mike Groom, Sandy Pitman, Yasuko, Beck Weathers, and a couple of other, Charlotte Fox, her boyfriend, which I can't remember who he is, and another person. They have a clump of 7 trying to come down. They're like 2 hours behind John Krakauer. He's already fucking on the way down. They form a clump to try to get down together. They can't see because the visibility is now zilch. The storm has hit. The wind chill has dropped. They are literally trying to climb back down Everest in a hurricane. All right. It's fucking bad. They pick up Beck. They go down.
He went with them.
He goes down with the other, finally, with the other scoop. Okay. So they're coming down and it's going to jump between people of what's going on with everybody at the same time. So John Krakauer is talking about his descent down. He can't see. He's this. And it's like walking through like a dream. He can't move his legs and then he'd have to stop and take a breath because now he's run out of oxygen again. They're blowing through tanks. And he sits and he knows he's close to the camp because he used to if he hikes, he memorizes everything around him. I know that's this, that. And so he's like, this is the only way I found my way back. So they're at the top of like an ice fall. So that's the last thing to get to the camp. And he sees this guy come. He thinks this guy is Andy Harris. And the guy comes over and says something to him. He's like, where are the camp? Where's camp 4? He's like, it's there, but we got to get down this ice fall. And the guy's like, I'm fucking going. He's like, no, we better wait for nails and stuff. And he's like, nope, I'm going. He said, and I watched this guy sit on his ass and start going down this ice fall. He's like, and I watch him fall. It's like 200 feet. Yeah. He's like, and I watch him get to the bottom, get up, and start walking to the tents. He's like, so I know Andy's in the tents. Okay. He starts slowly picking his way down. He gets to the bottom. He can't find the fucking tents. He walks around for like an hour before he finally stumbles on the tent. Oh my God. Now, at this point, it's like 8:00 at night. All right. They started climbing at midnight the night before. All right. So he gets into the tent. John's exhausted. He can't even move. He literally collapses. And Andy's not in that tent. He doesn't know what the fuck happened to Andy. Okay. So now John's in the tent. Here come the other 7 climbers coming down the tent. And they can't see. It's taking them forever. And now at 8:00, the Russian guide's back at camp. I don't know why he gets back at camp before his team, but he's back at camp. And he knows now, this storm is off the charts. And he knows they're all still out there. He's got to fucking find them. So he's trying to rouse people, the people who departed earlier who made it. He's trying to rouse everybody. He can't get anybody up. So he's got like headlights on. He's out with pots and pans. Can't get anybody.
Oh my God.
So this second group, they get down this little ice fall, but they get lost again because they're like 300 feet from the tent, but they can't find it. they get lost. So they're hunkered down behind a rock, trying to break the breeze from the wind. And at this point, Beck Weathers is bad, and Yasuko's she's not doing well either.
Mm-hmm.
So Beck Weathers at some point stands up. He's almost incoherent. He mouths like, I know what I'm doing, and he gets blown out of sight, down. All right. They're like, oh, he's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Yosuke is laying in the snow, and they're looking at her, and they're like, oh, she don't look good. I think she's dead. And she like sits up for a minute, raises her hands, lays back down, never moves again. So they're hunkered. And Toli, the Russian guide, finds them. I don't know how he finds them, but he finds them. And he's like, I can only save one of you at a time. Sandy Pitman at this point is a fucking mess. She's incoherent. She's crying. She doesn't want to die. She can't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
They are all a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts one by one carrying them back to the tents. He finally gets the last two out of there. He looks at Yosuke. He's like, she's fucking dead. He looks at Beck Weathers. He's dead. They go back to the camp. Get those. Okay. Scott Fisher. He gets to the top. He is sick. He's exhausted. He starts... I don't even know if he makes it to the top. At one point, they see one of the Taiwanese hikers. His name is like Gao. He's just sitting in the snow. And Scott's like... He says to the Sherpa who's climbing with him, he's like, I'm done. I can't do any more. And he just sits in the snow and lays down. And they're like, but you got to move. We got to get you out of here. He's like, I am done. And he just lays down.
Oh, God.
Now you got Rob Hall and Doug at the top. This storm hits. They're at the top of the Hillary steps. They haven't even made it to the bottom yet. And Doug is a zombie. He's comatose. He can't fucking move. He can't get him down. And he's run out of oxygen. So they're like, Doug, we got to get you oxygen. And you can hear him on the radio because base camp's monitoring everything. We got to get you oxygen. You got to get down. You got to get down. You got to get down. And he's like, he's incoherent. He can't even speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going back in time. This is earlier in the day. Andy Harris is on the radio. Now, John thinks he's back at camp. Andy Harris is on the radio and he's saying, Rob is saying, I need oxygen. I'm at the South Summit. You've got to bring me oxygen up here. And Andy's like, we have no oxygen. Base camp is trying to reply, there was oxygen there.
Mm-hmm.
No, and every time somebody would reply, there was oxygen at that summit, Andy would chime in, no, there isn't. No, there isn't. No, there isn't. At some point, he finally realizes there are tanks, and he's going to try to bring oxygen tanks to Rob.
Mm-hmm.
He is never heard from again.
Mm.
Okay? Nobody really knows what fucking... If you look in the... I'll tell you about what they portray it in the movie, but you really look at him again, never heard from again. So, now Rob and Doug are at the South Summit, and this storm is outrageous. Rob is calling, and the base camp's like, nobody can get to you right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to hunker down where you are and wait it out. So they're like, where's Doug? And all he can tell you is Doug is gone. Mm-hmm. Again, nobody knows what happens to Doug. I'll tell you what happens in the movie, but nobody knows what really happened to these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Rob is at the top of the summit. He's exhausted. He has no oxygen either.
Mm-hmm.
He's cold. He's a mess. So he's kind of hunkered in this little lee as well. And at some point, they're actually calling his wife at home, who's 8 months pregnant. And she's talking to him like, you've got to move. You've got to start walking.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to start walking. Nope, can't fucking do it. Okay. The next morning hits. There's a break in the storm. And the Sherpas try climbing again to Rob. He is still talking to people. He somehow survives the fucking night.
Oh my God.
Negative 100-degree wind chill.
No.
Negative 70-degree temps. Hurricane force winds. He survives the night.
At the summit of Mount Everest.
At the summit of Mount Everest. And he's saying to them, my oxygen tank is frozen. And they're trying to chip it. And it's taking him hours. And, maybe he can get some oxygen. He does at some point free his oxygen, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, Rob, just start climbing down. Just start climbing down. And, you can theorize. You can Monday morning quarterback. Maybe he could have met the Sherpas halfway. But he's fucking just spent the night out in Everest. And he's like, I can't. And, in the movie, they predict him trying to make it a little bit. But then the Sherpas have to turn back because here comes another storm.
Oh, my God.
Worse than the one the night before. So if they even want to leave Camp 4, they can't because this storm's bad. Before the storm hits, they're starting to pack up at Camp 4. And one of the guys looks, he goes, who the fuck is that walking into camp? Oh yeah, here comes Beck Weathers, who just also spent the night out
outside
in the fucking storm. He comes in, his arm is like in a salute because it's frostbitten that way because he didn't have a glove on either. His hand is black, frozen solid, and he's stumbling into camp. Frostbit face, frostbit hands. They put, packs all over him, put him in a couple of sleeping bags, and they stick him in one of the tents. All right? Boom, second storm hits. They're all hunkering down. And before the second storm hits, they're talking to Rob on the phone, and he's like, I'll do another night. Just somebody has to be here by 9 o'clock in the morning. You have to get somebody here by 9 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, we'll try, Rob, we'll try. And again, they patch his wife through again. They picked the child. They knew it was a girl. He's like, name her Sarah for me. His final words I have written down here somewhere are like, sleep tight, my love. I love you. That's the last they ever hear from Rob Hall. Okay, frozen solid up there. So the next night comes down, and they're awake. They're packing up to Camp 4. They got to get everybody out of there because it's bad. I'm sorry. Before the second storm hits again, the Sherpas find Scott Fisher and this Gao, who have also spent the night. Gao is still alive.
Oh my God.
So they fucking pick Gao up and they bring him out. Scott Fisher is barely breathing. They know, like, eyes were fixed and dilated. The Russian guy is the one who found them. He puts Scott's pack over his face as like a shroud. That's where Scott stays. So now both guides have died at the top of Everest. So now they're packing up. They're trying to get everybody out. And they just figure, like, there's no way Beck Weathers lived. He died. He had to have died. Now, the night the second storm hits, it's ripping the tents apart. So John Krakauer and the guy I think Hutchinson, he's in the tent with, they're leaning against the back of the tent trying to hold it together because if it collapses, they're fucking done. These tents are a disaster in the morning. They're packing up. They got to get to Camp 2. And you got to figure they could climb through all that shit just to get back to Camp 2. So John's like, I peeked into Beck's tent just to see, I'm sure he was dead. Beck rolls over. He's like, where the fuck have you been? I'm like, what? The tent has collapsed on his face. And he's like, with those winds, it was pressed against his face. He can't breathe. So the wind would let up. He'd take a breath. Boom, back on his face. The snow bags, the sleep bags blow off. But his hands are so frostbitten, he can't help himself. The wristwatch he was wearing, now his arm is swollen up. It's cutting off. He was miserable, beside himself, freezing to death again. And he's like, where the fuck have you been? So one of the things they would do to these hikers when they would get this bad is they would give them shots of dexamethasone or oral dexamethasone to get them going. So they need to get back off this mountain. They can't carry him off this mountain. So they shoot him up with a bunch of dexamethasone. Fucking guy starts climbing down the mountain. God. Okay, he's got frostbitten hands
that he can't use.
Frostbitten face. He's fucking blind, and his feet are a mess. Now they've already called his wife and told him he's dead. Like he's done. Okay. So they climb down. They finally make it to Camp 2. Camp 2's mess tent has been made into a hospital. All right. The first team arrives. They've got Gao. They're trying to defrost his hands, this and that. And they're like, this is the worst frostbite we've ever seen. Can we take pictures? And like, this picture's him like, with his frostbite hands. And Krakauer's in there and he hears, okay, get ready. We're bringing Weathers in. And he's thinking, there's no way he survived the climb. Nope, here comes Weather. And then they're like, oh no, this is the worst frostbite we've ever seen. So they're taking pictures of him too. And he's just got that Texan spirit. He's like, he's laughing through it, even though it's this bad. So they got to get helicopters to Camp 2 to get them out. Okay. I'm sorry I'm hitting the mic, so it's going to make a thud. Camp 2, helicopters. If the hikers on Everest are fucked, the people flying the helicopters are more fucked. Okay. Because it never dawned on me till I watched a special on these hikers. There's no air for the blades to catch. Okay, so they have to strip the helicopters of everything but the pilot. There's no seats, there's no nothing. And they can only take one person at a time. So, they fly and you see him hovering and he just gets the blades, the runners, onto the edge of the mountain, okay?
No.
And I'm only going to say this part of the movie is true because I've seen it on the special. So they can only take one at a go. They're going to take Gao first. And they don't even know if they can come back for Beck. And so they're already thinking, how are we going to get him down the ice fall back to base camp. They take the helicopter and they turn it around with the rotors. You know, they kind of fly it around and they place it on the edge. And they're like, okay, we're going to go head first until the air catches the rotors.
No.
So they fucking dive on the side of the mountain and he's flying it. The rotors aren't even moving at this point. And the air catches it. And I was like,
No.
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 Who does this?
No. Slide me down the fall. I'll try my luck.
I would be in a gigantic diaper because I would shit myself. Like,
no. Push me down the fall.
Right.
I will try my luck.
So they thinking like, I don't know how we're going to get Beck out of here. And they hear the rotors come back. They were able to take him down as well. So what John thought happened to Andy Harris is he thought he was the man that he saw, scoot down the thing. And he thought he got lost making it to the Camp 4 tent and that he literally walks off of the side of Everest. Mm-hmm. And it isn't for he tells everybody the story because when they all get back, the reporter, everybody wants to know what the fuck happened up there. That's not really what happened to Andy Harris. Andy Harris is last seen trying to get oxygen back to Rob. Mm-hmm. And Harris's family was pissed that this is the story that went out, that he walks off the side of Everest. And Krakauer took a lot of heat for a lot of the stories he told, but he's like, I was addle-brained.
Yeah.
I thought, and it isn't until he's talking to another hiker, I think it was Mike Room. I can't remember who it was he was talking to. It's in the book. He's talking to another hiker, and the hiker's like, yeah, I was coming down. I can't see shit. And I see this guy sitting there, and I talked to him, and the guy's like, yeah, you should get some ropes and stuff to get down that ice fall. And he was like, are you out of your fucking mind? He's like, so I slid down. I start falling. My ice pick catches me out of my backpack, stops my fall. I land, got up, and I walked into camp. And he's like, it wasn't until I talked to him I realized I made a huge mistake. Mm-hmm. Sandy Pitman is highly criticized for exhausting the Sherpas to the brink that they just, it was detrimental to the trip. Mm-hmm. In the movie, Doug is seen where you see Rob trying to get him down, and he's out of it. And they're clipped to a rope, and they're walking this narrow ledge. Mm-hmm. And he turns to Doug, and he's like, don't move. I'm going to get help, or I'm going to get here. And he turns back around, and Doug unclips himself off the side of the mountain. In the movie, Andy Harris is portrayed as having found Rob, and they're huddled together on this, and he gets the paradoxal hypothermia, and he's undressing, and off the side he goes. They've never found them.
Right.
12 days later, hikers were hiking. They find Rob Hall frozen, laying down. Mm-hmm. He may still be up there, as far as I know. Scott Fisher is still up there. Their families had asked people to bring keepsakes back. I think somebody brought back a few things, but they didn't really want to disturb the bodies. Mm-hmm. Multiple people had reached out for help. Like, they were looking for extra oxygen, and they needed more powerful batteries for the radio. So they asked the South African team, can we borrow your batteries? Nope, go fuck yourself. Asked them, nope, go fuck yourself. The Americans, you can say what you want about Americans. They offered climbers. They offered their Sherpas. They gave them tons of oxygen. Even though the IMAX team was $5 million invested in this for the thing, they helped as much as they could. And I was like, every time you hear something in this story, the Americans stopped to help. Mm-hmm. So at another point, these are more deaths that happened. There were 3 climbers from India. They were trying to get to the top. They think they summit the top, and they call and they say they summit the top, and they didn't. They are dying. It was not the same night. It was later on. A couple of Japanese people climbing, hikers climbing. The Indian people asking them for help. Go fuck yourself. They went to the top. Now, easier said than done. Mm-hmm. I can't say if I was Rob Hall, I wouldn't have let Doug bite it, because he winds up dying anyway, and Rob's life costed for that. Granted, he would never be able to run that company again with having let his clients die. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you got to help yourself, So they get back, they eventually all get back. Beck Weathers lost his left hand from the elbow down. Oh. All of the fingers on his right hand. Lost his nose and had to have major facial reconstruction. Yeah. But this guy spent 2 nights in a fucking storm. Yeah. And he says, he's like, I lost consciousness for 12 hours. So he doesn't remember anybody trying to help. He's like, I lost consciousness. He's like, and then I woke up and I see Yasuka dead. And he thought, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And he's like, I just stood up and got out of there. He's like, I don't know why, but I just got out of there.
Yeah.
So that is the ill-fated story of Mount Everest. I'm just looking up my notes, see if there's anything I forgot to tell you.
Well, they must have gone off because if they were still hooked on, they would have found them.
Right.
Right.
And they did, but they could be under an avalanche. Who knows? But you'd have to go search Rainbow Valley and find out, because they all get blown into the same spot off the mountain.
Yeah.
And it just is like, at what cost? What was so important that you lost your life over
and
this?
that guy lost his hand, his nose, and his fingers and didn't even summit it.
Right.
Like,
right.
he didn't even do it.
Right.
Yeah, no.
I don't have that need.
No.
And, the postman, like, I think Rob felt so bad that he was like, I'm going to get him to the top at all costs. And, in the movie, it's portrayed that way, that, like, I've come this far, you got to let me go, you got me go. And he broke his own cardinal rule of turnaround of 2:00.
Right.
And he's 2 hours behind, and it cost them both their lives.
Yeah.
And other people. The Russian is not portrayed very well as either, even though he did save 7 people. He's portrayed as, like, very much out for himself.
Yeah, but he saved people.
He did, but why was he in camp before he was a guide.
Yeah.
So he shouldn't have been in camp before his clients were in camp.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very controversial. He took a lot of hits. He went on to summit the 14 peaks or the 7 peaks. And it just, he took a big hit in the story. Krakauer got a lot of criticism for writing the story, for putting a blame game. I think it was his way of trying to justify what he saw and what he went through.
Yeah.
Never been the same. None of these people, Sandy Pitman won't even give an interview. She won't be, nobody will talk to her. Like I said, she takes a big hit in the book.
Yeah.
So if you get the chance, it's a fantastic book.
Yeah.
It's nope.
I'm freezing sitting in my house right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And I think
of
what a spoiled little brat I am. Like, I'm going to go home, I'm heat a mattress pad, and I'm going to warm up, and I'm going to have my cats, and I'm going to have like, I would never.
No. I'm uncomfortable in my house.
Never. I have no idea. No, I don't need to sleep in the cold. No. Nope. Where do you shit when it's negative 70 degrees out?
Maybe you don't.
Do you think I'm ever going to poop
Maybe
when
you
it's
don't.
70? You wouldn't.
Like, I think your body probably doesn't.
It's just reusing it.
Yeah.
Or it's frozen solid in the chute.
Yeah.
How are you going to even pee? It's too fucking cold to pull your pants down.
Yeah.
And as a woman, it's not like I can just pull the tip out. I mean, I got to squat.
Right.
Nope. The food they're eating, they're eating all that protein sludge shit that those hikers have, that they have
The
little
fact
packets
that
of.
the tent is secured to a rock wall is enough to make me
So you
never.
don't blow off the side of the mountain.
I don't care. I've
No.
seen those tents and I'm like, what's wrong with you? You're an insane person. You could still blow off the side of that fucking mountain.
Mhm.
A tent isn't holding you on.
Nothing about that
No.
is a good time for me. Nothing. I'll
No.
just watch it at the IMAX theater. Thank you very
I
much.
barely even want to do that.
I don't mind. I'm warm in the IMAX theater. It makes me a little seasick because I get motion sickness.
No, I mean just watching them kind of like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. And all that gear. No, good. Okay, so
It sounds awful.
that should bring us through January and February.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy. Hope you enjoyed Everest and the Andes.
Hope we warm up soon.
Yes, I think we got a ways to go though, love. So we are preparing some episodes on nursing, like eating their young and burnout, etc. So please, if you have stories of mentors that were good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
or stories of being bullied,
Mm-hmm.
stories of burnout,
Yeah.
you're 2 years in the field and already you're done.
Yeah.
Please send them in because we'd like to incorporate them. We're going to interview some people and we'll take all the stories you got.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right,
Keep warm.
Bye.
Like, subscribe, rate, and review the Scissors and Scrubs podcast on whatever podcast app you listen to us on. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Scissors and Scrubs. And email us any of your stories or thoughts to scissorsandscrubs@gmail.com.